Hello and welcome to the show. I am back taking a look at some more of the new grid game. Naturally, V8 Supercars were one of the first things that I wanted to have a try with on this because, yes, for the first time in quite a while, we have got some almost up-to-date V8 Supercars. I say almost up-to-date. So we don't have this current year's V8 Supercars. We have got the last year of the Ford Falcon, pretty much. We do have the current Commodore, because that was raced a couple of years ago. You will also notice a rather peculiar addition, which is kind of cool. There is a Camaro running in this field. Now, no, there isn't a Camaro actually running in the V8 Supercars, and sadly, we don't have the Nissan to play around with. But, yeah, we do have a kind of, I guess, fictional Camaro made to run in this class, which, let's face it, we might well see in the future at some point. The slightly confusing thing is, while the liveries for the cars, you know, we've got the super cheap Ford, I think the Commodore is running the Mega livery. The Camaro has the Shell V-Power livery, which is accurate livery, only it's the one that's being raced on a Mustang currently and winning everything, which is a little bit peculiar for V8 Supercar fans and Ford fans, and probably showing that either way, this is the category of V8 Supercar. It's great to see these cars back in more games. I think I'd like to see them in more games naturally, because I'm a massive fan of them. But yeah, as I said in the previous video about this, there is a lot of different kind of categories of racing, even if there is the odd fictional car along the way. Now, naturally, I went for a race around Brands Hatch with these cars, because why not? Thought I'd test out the pouring rain. Now, unfortunately, this was actually the very, very first race that I did on the game. I hadn't realised that all the assists had been were still on, and it's, I say, kills a little bit of the feel. I again did the stupid cutting down in front of AI cars a little bit too aggressively, which is going to get you in trouble. Yeah, if you move around like a muppet in front of the AI cars, you're gonna get yourself turned, pretty much. It gets quite busy up at turn 2. I actually think this was on a lower difficulty as well for this first race before I went and changed everything. So it makes it a bit easier to kind of carve your way up through the field. We make it up to 10th in, well, kind of a corner for all of that. The AI are busy going 3 wide up ahead. I talked about this last time. Yeah, the AI are pretty damn impressive with their fighting each other and being able to race closely together. We don't see 3 wide very often in that corner at the best of times, let alone when it comes to AIs trying to, and they all made it work in the pouring rain. As far as weather effects go, while it does all look very pretty, rain not as big a impact as you perhaps might like. This is not a full-on simulator game, not even close. It's more sort of an arcade fun racing game with some interesting race vehicles added into the mix. And yeah, okay, I had some assists while I was driving this particular car around here, but I have later driven, I will see later in this video, driving around in the rain without all of that, and it's still quite a lot of grip. Yes, if you are an idiot with the car, it's going to snap as somebody loses a rear wing going down the start-finish straight. My front bumper's not exactly very well attached to the car anymore. Yeah, vehicle ahead lost the whole boot and wing assembly. Makes it look very peculiar, Falcon. Yeah, rain, sort of the differences between the dry and the wet track isn't as massive as I like. I mean, this looks like it's absolutely pissing it down with rain, and the cars are still dealing with it pretty well. There is no dynamic weather. You're not going to have a race that starts off dry and goes to wet. It's going to either start off in the wet, so you're not going to be worrying about wet and dry tyres. As I said, it's more of an arcade racing game, and that's fine. You know, I'm perfectly okay with that. These V8 Supercars, nice vehicles to drive. My car's now got a flappy bonnet going on from a few. It's been in the wars a little bit through this one. It's had a few bumps, it has a few shunts along the way. As we head up towards the lead pair that are busy battling away for that. As this was on medium difficulty, I would probably recommend, certainly if you are mildly experienced with racing games, you're going to probably be whacking the AI difficulty up a fair bit. On these lower levels, they are not, I'd say they're not competitive. It's good for getting people started, and this game's going to have appeal to perhaps those that might not normally play racing games, so it's good to have not just savage AIs. So, but yeah, you're going to want it on slightly tough. I got spun into the pit wall 2 laps ago, and we've got back up towards leading the race in this one. We'll get past the Camaro. That's still a little bit weird. The V8 Supercar fan in me is a little confused about that one, but there we go. We move up to the lead with the Falcon as the body goes pinging off the car. So yeah, there's a brief look with it. Unfortunately, I kind of messed the settings up, so I didn't really make the most of that one. We move next to the time attack cars. Now, these things are mad. There is no other way to put it, really. The wings are mighty. That they are, and it's not just the rear wings either. The front wings, splitters, whatever you want to. I don't even know what. I feel like Wing is not doing these quite justice. The things they have going on at the front of the cars. These are mad machines. When I saw these were going to be in grid, naturally I wanted to have a go with these, and they are savage vehicles to drive. They're one of the more difficult vehicles to drive, which you would expect. You can screw up with these quite easily, especially in the slower corners. If you use a little bit too much throttle, you're going to spin in the lower gears. And of course, these have all got massive turbos going on. So if you're coming out of a corner and you're in a sort of a low gear, slow speed corner, go to put the power down, and you get it just at the wrong point in the, well, I say the wrong point in the rev range, but if you've suddenly got the turbo spooling up, kicking in, you are going to be in trouble, because they will snap sideways. They snap very quickly. But you know, these are some of the fastest cars. But these are kind of the fastest. I was going to say outside of the full-on prototypes, but I guess these are kind of prototypes. They're very quick. They're very quick indeed, as we see here. We're racing at the Sydney Motorsport Park, which is a fun addition. I think it's Motorsport Park, if I remember rightly. The V8 Supercars race around here. There's a bunch of different layouts for this one as well. Most of the circuits have a whole heap of layouts. While there isn't the largest number of circuits overall, there is quite a lot of layouts for each of them. There's about 4 layouts around this one, varying layouts. And the layout the V8 Supercars runs, some shortened layouts along the way as well. Brands Hatch, you know, you've got your main layout in your Indy circuit, but most tracks have got 3 or 4 different layouts for them. We lost 4th place briefly, had to kind of fight our way back through all of that. Now we're chasing off after the lead pack that are continuing to battle. The little CRX is a wacky contraption. In this one, we've got Silvia Evos, and there's an Audi R8 in this group as well. I can't remember all of the cars. CRX is decidedly tiny in this group. I didn't actually mean to pick the Silvia when I was going through this. I accidentally clicked on it, so that's how I ended up driving. Probably not the car I would have initially gone for. Either way, I mean, they're all pretty brutal machines to drive. You see them moving around a lot as we head out back down the start-finish straight and watch the speed climb in this car. I got a mega run onto this one, and we're up to 170. It'll get out to about 200 miles an hour before turn 1. We actually go flying past everything, and then you're carrying a lot of speed. I daren't quite take it flat. I don't know whether this car could. It's a exciting turn 1. I was going to go with terrifying turn 1, but both kind of work at this circuit. In this car, when you have as much grip as you do, it's are you brave enough to take it flat out? If you do try and take it flat out, are you going to get it slightly wrong and have an incredibly big accident? Because that would be probably very easy in all of that. But yeah, it's a very cool circuit to have. Again, I'm liking that there are some slightly more obscure, you see less of Sydney Motorsport Park in racing games in general, so it's nice to see this included here. And I love the time attack cars. They're probably one of the more difficult cars to drive. They are so brutally fast that close racing will probably be a little bit more difficult with them. Again, the AI did not seem to enjoy. I had whacked the difficulty up to hard by this point. The AI did not seem to enjoy driving these cars so much around here, as I get everything terribly wrong at the final corner. Yet they will bite. They will bite very easily if you get things slightly wrong. Thankfully, I was far enough ahead that we could bugger off into the distance. It picks up a lot of speed. It's 206 miles an hour into turn 1. Still not quite got the turn in right through all of that, but it's yeah, I like a lot. Mad vehicles, mad looking vehicles, mad driving vehicles. The AI were having a massive battle going on further back, which looked quite fun. Having played around with some sort of custom races that I came up with and some of the career mode, we were then put into a multiplayer session. So those of us that were invited down at this particular session, this particular time slot, if you like, were all dumped into one multiplayer lobby. Now, we were racing up against Super GT. I'm not actually sure which car he was driving in this field, but one of the vehicles in this slot, we're driving with the DPI cars. Now, this is very much not my sort of vehicle. As I said, previous grid video, and those that have watched my content plenty will know, I do not really do the ultra-fast prototype cars. It's just not my sort of vehicle. Touring cars, Clio Cup cars, that's the kind of level that I am at. And this was the very first time I had driven a vehicle this fast in Grid. And it's a testament to Grid's handling that it didn't really take long before I was comfortable driving pretty bloody fast with this one. Now this, we're using the older layout of Silverstone, which I much prefer this layout of Silverstone to the new one. It might not be to everyone's taste, but yeah, I do much prefer this particular layout of Silverstone. Pouring rain again, this time with none of the assists on, so I was going to have to be a little bit careful. I mean, you can see from quite a lot of the other cars that were racing around, you can get things wrong. They're not as snappy, no, as the time attack cars. However, things were, yeah, you had to be that little bit careful to try to think of the right word. You could get these sideways, but you just had that smidge more time to try and catch them. And there's a lot of grip. Again, rain perhaps not as much of an impact as you would, as I would have liked, as you might have liked in all of this. The car ahead wandering a little bit wide. They get a big slide through the next corner. I mean, this is where I start just about sliding the Cadillac on the inside curb. It isn't that sort of vicious snap around that you saw from the time attack cars, but it was going to do something silly if you were really ultra aggressive. So I had actually quite a good lap, having come from the back of the field and worked our way up into a 4th position here, get an absolutely mega run out of the first corner, and as we fly into Maggots and Beckett's, that will put me up to a podium position. Now, I believe Super GT is driving one of the vehicles ahead of us at this point. I'm not sure which one, but we're going to go chasing after as we headed on to the back straight, although I wasn't all that far away from I think it's the Acura, is the red and white cars driving the Cadillac. As we dive on the brakes, car behind has a big dive. I thought they were going to go shoot. I knew they were going to go along to the inside. I thought they were going to shooting through on the corner, but they did manage to make it stop in time. I go for a cutback, but we're on the outside for the next corner again. Big late moment on the brakes for the white and red car. Can't quite get it stopped in time. I will take that 3rd position back. And up ahead, I think actually might have ended up off the circuit. I don't actually quite know where they went after that. I've just realised there's no sign of the car. That put me up to 3rd either way, with now some nice clean air behind to go chasing after the leaders, who were very busy battling away. There's not here. None of us have ever really driven these cars before. We were just kind of dumped into a multiplayer session around track. I've not driven this layout of Silverstone for a while. I at least do know the track. And there was some fantastic racing going on at the front as they're going side by side, both of them slipping and sliding out of the next corner. There's a little bit of lag from one of the cars. They're still battling side by side, trading a little bit of paint, and it's my turn to get an absolutely mega run off of the corner. While they'd been busy fighting one another, both were slow on the exit. I'll say thank you very much, get past the pair of them as we head across the start-finish line on towards the final lap. Carry huge amounts of speed through turn 1. And looking in the rearview mirror, the more the pair of them are fighting, that's what I wanted to see. The Acura, I think, actually bounced across the curbs. I was always a little bit nervous about attacking the curbs. While on the actual tarmac, you have a lot of grip in these vehicles. The curves, as always, we saw a couple of slides going on. I was always a little bit wary of getting into trouble. This time, that car behind gets a very good run. I'm not too worried about leaving sort of space on the inside. I was a little more confident in my braking, having been battling with somebody through there the previous lap. So I'd have space if someone wanted to go for a big dive. They could, and I'd just go for a cutback as we had seen previously. I'm a little wide through the next part of the circuit. Thankfully, for me, cars behind were in trouble as well. They're both slipping and sliding through the corners, and that gives me, once again, that little bit of breathing space. We can run away, heading down towards the... I can't remember what this corner is. Bridge I love is a corner that's coming up here. One of my favourite corners on Silverstone, which is a real shame the new circuit doesn't use that. There's a brilliant turn there. In these cars as well is a lot of fun because you carry huge speed. Then it was a case of don't do anything stupid with the car through the next few corners. and especially helped that cars behind were now back to going side by side. I just don't spin the car on the curb. We'd already seen a little bit of slide. We'd already seen what could happen if you got things wrong. Both vehicles were going big oversteer moments behind. That's what I wanted to see, and that would put me across the line at claiming a victory. We'll go for a second race at slightly more unusual locations. See, the DPI cars, Silverstone, fairly sensible track to go racing. Havana, street circuit, a bit nasty. Also at night time. I should also actually point out at this stage some of the multiplayer stuff not quite finalised for the game. It's about a month until the game is actually coming out, so yeah, not quite all finalised for the game. We're playing this quite early, but seems to was working pretty well. Turn 1 was a little bit of a mess, shall we say. I had a better spot on the grid and was trying to make a little bit of a break if I could through this. However, this is a tough circuit. I had a slight sneaky little bit of an advantage having driven a Havana layout already at this stage. Unfortunately, we all got a little bit connected, and the car dove up the inside. I got a little bit stuck and squished on the outside against the wall and was struggling to find that clean air. It's just struggling to find that little bit of clean air that I could use, trying not to get involved in, well, shunts. Sadly, it was other people's issues that got the better of me. I then pinged off a curb and we were quickly dumped back. So having had a better spot on the grid, I quickly found myself a lot further back. Not ideal. Not ideal. However, there was time to try and make my way back up the field. Now, this was actually being driven on a longer layout of the Havana circuit, so that particular fast chicane I had fun with in the GT4 cars. This sort of section, though, didn't quite know where I was going. It was how brave dare you be? This car not enjoying the curves as much. You'd actually see start hitting some of these curves really hard. The vehicle will start going up on its side. Not quite will it roll levels of pinging off of the curbs, but you can see these are pretty big curbs, and this is a very, very low slung car. I like this. I think it was the final turn. Well, it kind of got this sort of, I think, kink on the start-finish rate, but yeah, that's a fun final corner. It's very, very quick indeed. You've got to try and get your braking point right as you jump across a curb that's, I mean, sketchy. I think sketchy is the word I would use to describe some of the corners around here in this car. As I said, this is probably not the sort of venue you want your DPI car ideally race around. One of the Acuras ended up in the wall, pinged around. Now it's getting very busy. They're 4 wide up ahead, and I will say thank you very much, as too many cars in one little corner. I can be sneaky. Basically, just took the line I wanted through there, and while everyone else is busy fighting, I can jump myself to the lead. You did actually see one of the cars had the bonnet was flapping around, was coming up. Probably not a good idea to be driving from cockpit view once your car starts doing that one. You're not going to be seeing very much out of there. You also see some of the huge airtime that you can get across, like huge airtime. But this kind of car, get some pretty big airtime across these curbs if you do hit them at a wonky angle. I was wary of getting slowed down for this kind of wide head. It's one of those sort of tantalisingly tempting wide head. It's such a huge wide run-in that you want to go for an overtake, and there's kind of plenty of runoff area if you slightly misjudge the brakes, but really easy to end up out wide and then go back towards a fiddly section. Again, while these are probably not the best cars for this particular track, I do think at least the Havana circuit is going to be good for normal racing, and I was actually starting to pull away from the rest of the field at this stage. Something pinged off of my car. I'm not actually sure quite what. Some bit of the bonnet came off of my car. It wasn't the whole thing, but something went amiss. Don't quite know what it was, and I was far too busy concentrating to actually think to look behind to see what had gone pinging off of the car. Problem was, while I had a rather nice lead, I was still doing my normal thing of going as fast as I absolutely could, which is a problem when you do something stupid. Admittedly, I wasn't the only one, but a big two-wheeled moment and a slight bottom out of the back of the car on a curb, and around I went, as did somebody else. I think the car in third place did a carbon copy spin of me at that particular point. Wasn't the cleverest / finest driving moment. Fairly simple, just to hold it together for the rest of the race, and Yeah, curb's got the better of me. Who would have thought I would be defeated by a curb? I mean, just about everybody would have thought. But yeah, two-wheel moment, not quite a roll, but two-wheel moment off a curb. As I said before, the curbing on some of the circuits with some of the cars can be quite vicious here. You need to be careful, and unfortunately for me, I was not, and I hadn't really learnt my lesson as I'm still getting two-wheeled moments. Now, I wasn't entirely out of this. Unfortunately for me, cars ahead clonked into a wall, and I was committed. I mean, these vehicles are fast, and I was committed. Also, probably a little too ambitious trying to make up time on the probably shouldn't have gone for that. It was a half-ish chance. I don't think the car ahead realised I was going to be alongside there, and wouldn't have known to leave space. By the time we come around this final corner, everything's quite battered. The two ahead battling over the last podium spots were so slow around the final turn, I could actually sweep past and again outrun something to the line. Note, the car on the inside has got seemingly a puncture on the front tyre. Now, that's the first time I'd seen a puncture for a vehicle. So it looks like you may well be able to lose tyres. I don't know how much affected the driving. It did only have a couple of corners with that level of damage, but did seem to be able to get some damage from one of the shunts that it was involved with. So there we go. A little bit of a look at some of the different cars in the game. A little bit of a look at some multiplayer as well. We had a lot of fun with the multiplayer races. There's only a couple of them, and some of us were a little bit inexperienced with the cars and tracks and whatnot. A couple of shunts at the Havana race, which weren't ideal. Silverstone was brilliant, though, in these. As I said, these are not normally my sort of cars, yet we had an absolutely fantastic race around the Silverstone circuit. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this game. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.